I think that's the one that really goes into the infrasound. But it does some decent stuff in the first half, just laying out the case and what happened. As much as I hate to admit it, there's a really excellent found footage American horror film.
I wasn't sure if I should bring that up or not. That thing was scary as hell.
And it has time travel and dimension stuff, and I think space monkeys, and I don't know what the hell was in that, but it scared me, and I don't usually get any type of reaction like that off film. The Dyatlov Pass, I think, mystery or something like that, or investigation, and it's a B movie and it's found footage, but it does a pretty good job doing what it's doing. Yes.
So was it dark? Like it was dark the whole time? Right?
Yes.
It was night.
Yep.
So if they wake up and there's something scary going on, they can't see, so they escape, then maybe they were trying to survive until morning to be able to see what's going on.
Right, but what scared them?
Yeah.
I mean, what is scary enough? Okay, just to get down to brass tacks. What is scary enough to make me unass a tent in the Arctic in the middle of February at night when it's 30 to 50 below zero in my underpants?
And don't try to defend yourself. Do they have any guns?
I don't know if they had a firearm with them. It wouldn't surprise me if they did.
I mean, if they expected bear or something, knives are not going to cut it. They should have had something.
Knives always cut it.
Right.
Not only that, but they destroyed their tents on the way.
Yeah,
Right.
Why cut yourself out of the tent instead of just go out the...
Like I said, it does not make any sense to me.
I mean,
cannot.
if something collapses on the tent, you'd have to cut your way out.
No, you can still go out the end.
There were entrances at both ends, right?
There was at least an entrance at one end. I'm not sure if there was an entrance at both ends.
If it's that, it's like something is blocking the entrance that you can't go that way, and you are really feel the need to get out now. That's
Right.
when you cut your way out of the tent.
Right.
So there's 8 or 9 people in there.
There's 9
you
people in the
can't
tent.
all go the front at the same time, so you start
True, but then that's more of a slash and jump instead of cut out each section.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
It's very weird. None of it, like I said, this is one of the incidents that I cannot construct a rational picture of what went on here from the evidence that is presented.
Because if there's something outside the tent, the chances that I'm going outside the tent are super slim.
Right.
So I mean, in that, okay, so if you hear any kind of weird, if it's an animal sound, it's probably a bear, and you get ready to defend your tent.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
But you do that inside the tent. You don't
Right.
else.
and whatever caused them to leave the tent, caused them to leave the tent in a matter of seconds.
So it's
Because-
not even what are we hearing? What do we think it is?
No,
It's
because
coming
if you're
this
like
way.
that, you'll start getting dressed.
Yes.
So whatever happened, whatever caused them to leave that tent, caused them to do that in a matter of seconds.
But enough to cut out the
Right, but that's still just a matter of seconds. So, because you can cut through a tent pretty quick. I mean, if you've got a nice knife and, this knife will cut kind of sharp.
See, that's because if you're sleeping, even waking up takes you a little bit.
but he said it was probably only an hour after we ate.
Right, so they may still have been awake.
True, they may have something.
What I thought you were referring to was maybe the Discovery Dyatlov show, which kind of went off the rails with the whole Yeti thing.
Oh, that
It
was
seems
terrible.
But they do describe a lot of stuff you just went over.
Right. But yeah,
And they really went down the rabbit hole.
yeah, it was not. I haven't seen but I've read reviews of it. And the Yeti thing is, I think it's a mash. I think it's just silly. Okay? I mean, how many other documented Yeti attacks or Bigfoot? There aren't any. I mean,
He's not silent.
Yetis ate my baby. Ooh, that'd be a good game. So,
Well, if it was an animal, it would probably eat them.
right, or there would be defensive wounds on them. And there were no defensive wounds.
What if it wasn't an animal and there's, I just kind of think, what if some sort of toxic substance or a gas or something where you need to escape this environment right now? did they have anything on them that could have, you know,
The question was
produced
about,
a toxic gas or something if it was mixed wrong? Or,
well, you know, the Russian diet.
well, I mean,
But it's also like complete darkness, so how would you even know it's there?
Right.
Well, I mean, you can smell
Well,
it.
yeah,
Right.
so like even if you
Well,
smell
okay,
toxic,
so
I don't know.
apparently they're not burning the stove, which would be a source of carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide. So the stove is apparently not being burned. So that's not it. The second thing is, if I have to get out of the tent
Something
because there's
chemical.
carbon monoxide, I'm going to step out of the tent, open the flaps, go back in the tent. I'm not going to run 500 to a kilometer down the hill,
50 below.
you know.
And did you say they had burns in their hands and feet? Was that like frostbite burns?
No, it was burns from the fire. So either their friends tried to get them warmed up and put them too close to the fire, or they tried to get warmed up and got too close to the fire, or the burns may have been post-mortem and the fire moved towards them. Because the thing is, it's very easy to get burned when you're dead. Getting burned when you're dead is very easy because there's no circulation to move that heat away from the point of contact or the point of convection. So one of the things we learned about when we did evidence stuff was that if you have a body in the trunk, that body will often have burn marks over the exhaust pipe because that body's been laying in the trunk on the exhaust pipe, which isn't really that hot, but since there's no way to carry the heat away from that specific location, you'll see burns on that. So if somebody can, you know, fill me in on this one, I'd be really interested. I got nothing. I really don't. I can poke a hole in every single theory that I've seen, and I can't come up with one that doesn't just leak all over the place when you analyze it.
the best thing I can think of is some sort of chemical or something that would induce you to get out right now. But then there would be some sort of evidence of.
Yeah, some
Well,
people
and where would it
some
come
sort of-
from?
some mass
Where would it-
hallucination.
There would need to be some sort of trace of that.
I was gonna say,
And,
but like even PCP, it leaves the bloodstream in 4 hours, urine in 90 days, and urine within 7 days, and hair follicles in 90 days.
When you got to look for it.
Exactly.
You know,
And where
why
they
would you do a
actually look
tox
for
on that?
something like, 'cause
I mean-
even the drug tests we do in the emergency department, they don't look for PCP.
Well, and, I mean, it could have been ergot. It could have been, you know, because ergot is a natural fungus that operates a lot like LSD. But where would it have come from?
Not native to the area.
Yeah, and it's
Well, they're
pretty
university
rare.
students, right?
It was before Timothy Leary. Yes, sir.
The food caches, that sounds like a public service that I never did guess the Soviet Union would do. These food caches, do they require permission? You know, in other words, you suggest ergot poisoning? Or is that, could that have been from the food?
It could have been, but I'm willing to bet that the rescue party used the same food caches.
That could be.
So, and I'm willing to bet that the search teams that scoured the area probably hit those caches pretty hard while they were there.
So these
And
were provided
by
by the government
Right.
to support activities in that area?
Yes. Because again, this was an activity that was highly respected by the Soviet government. The Communist Party really liked to show how tough their young kids were. This was, you know, a step up from Eagle Scouting for them. And, you know, so it was highly supported by the government.
And that just further knocks down the theory that they stumbled on some secret Russian site.
Well, now in the Soviet Union, the left hand and the right hand are often completely unaware of what was going on there. So I'm not sure that that's totally true, but again, you know, these people were doing what they were supposed to be doing. They were in an area where it was known that people do this, and it wasn't like, hey, we're out, you know, sneaking around in the middle of nowhere. I mean, they were in the middle of nowhere, but it wasn't an area. Dyatlov had been there before, so they had recognized trails in that area with these cache systems, and so it's not. It seems really unlikely that this would have been, you know, hey, we're going to test our secret giant robot here, or whatever the Soviets were up to.
Was there any indication of what time this may have started? Because I know if I'm woken up out of a dead sleep, I'm not that rational. I might run after some people at the same time.
Now, whether or not it'd be out in the winter, I don't know, which,
So, well, again, and I think there was evidence about the amount of urine that was in the corpses that indicated, again, it was probably very early after they had gone to sleep. So, and I have to go back and look at that because that is in the autopsy reports, is whose bladder was full and whose wasn't.
Was the actual entrance to the tent open? I know it's
No.
closed. It was still shut?
It was still closed.
Okay.
The last cache that they went by, like, was that far away?
No, and there's been a lot of discussion that maybe they were waiting for morning to try and get back to it, because that's the only place besides their tent that they're not going to be dead. So, and it was probably, the map I have isn't to scale, but it wasn't that far, but it was too far to walk in your skivvies. So,
I mean, when you go hypothermic, you're lethargic, right? So the people going back to the tent, it seems weird they would just like fall face first. Wouldn't they like try to sit down or rest or lay down or?
well, again, these are really tough people,
Yeah.
okay? And my impression of them is that they kept putting one foot in front of another until they were dead.
Yeah.
And that's not really unexpected. So, I mean, these were people, like I said, these were not tenderfoot. These were not people who shouldn't be out in long grass. These were people who actually had earned the respect to be out where they were.
Well, because even people who die on Everest, for example, they're seated or they're in like a fetal position from where they like.
Well, and a lot of them, what's interesting is if you're in late stage hypothermia, a lot of times you will go into this fetal position and, right, but there's another thing where you try and get into a little tiny space.
Yeah.
So,
That's like after the paradoxical and
right,
Yeah.
or right before it or during, because it doesn't have to be the same and there's really no order to it. But these folks were bound and determined to survive, which makes it even weirder that they didn't go back to the frickin' tent. Because the only place they're not going to die is that tent. Or maybe the snow den, okay? But those are their only two shots at it. And they had to know it. They had to know that they were in it deep when they were in the tree line. They already lost 2 people there. The other 7 people had to know that their chances were very, very slim. And 4 of them decided to take their chance with the snow den, and 3 of them decided to make it back to the tent. And it didn't work for any of them. So it's very, very odd. Okay? And again, they did march basically. Now the guy who was found on his back, Dyatlov was found on his back, he may have sat down and laid down. Okay? So that wouldn't be that uncommon.
Yeah.
So, and I think it would be interesting to look at the position people die on Everest in.
Well, with Everest too, I wonder if there's an idea that I'm going to get rescued, whereas this is more I get to the tent or die.
I think a lot of people on Everest know they're going to kick it. Because there is very little rescue on Everest. And in fact, there's bodies up there that have been up there for 30 years. So, I mean, if you die up there, you're likely to be there until the end of the planet.
And from the documentaries I've seen, people don't even expect to be helped if they're injured.
Well,
Because
people have
they
been
know-
walked over.
Yeah, because they know that if I stop to help this person, we're both dying, right?
See, and as a rescue guy,
Yeah.
I can't even think that way. I mean, if I there's no way I'm going to walk over somebody
Yeah.
to go plant my flag on top of a hill.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
nuts.
totally against my everything I've ever stood for. But you see these folks are not like that. They are, I mean, till the bitter end, they're trying to survive, but they're not walking over other people to do it.
It's weird because they're doing everything they can to survive except for the one thing that would help them survive, right?
It's just like, what's so frightening?
About why can't they go back to the tent? Why?
What would drive you out of the tent?
I don't have an answer. I cannot come up with
And the thing
anything.
is, like, what would keep you? Like, I understand if it's like, a horrible something, and you're like, oh my god, like, but then you'd think you'd risk being killed by whatever it is instead of for sure
Dying,
freezing to death.
yeah, I don't get it. I can't construct a horrible thing that will first make me get out of the tent in such a hurry that I A, don't put my clothes on, and B, cut a hole in the tent to get out. And then C, is so horrible that I'm going to run up between, basically run or walk a half a mile to get away from it in the dark, possibly during a snowstorm when it's between -20 and -50 degrees, and then not go back to the tent. And, play around building a fire and climbing a tree and stripping clothes off dead folks and
Climbing the tree is weird too.
It's like they were trying to look, but it was still dark.
Mhm.
Were
Or-
you trying to see?
or
Like,
they
unless
were-
it was an orb of light at the tent.
yeah.
If there's a thing that can crush my chest just like a car accident can, and smash my head in from both sides, I'm not going back to the tent.
True, but that didn't happen at the tent.
I know, but maybe they were worried that it was still there.
And then it came after them.
But there's no prints. There's no
That's
footprints.
the problem with that.
There's nothing.
Flying.
Oh yes, it's the winged yeti. It's Mothman.
It is amazing.
So
It was the only footprints.
it was a giant slug, a winter slug, and it just slid across the snow.
But it's like a
Yeah.
snow bunny, maybe it can just walk on the snow and not be fast.
From the discussion, not remembering exactly, because I wasn't,
Awake.
they were declared missing because they hadn't come out and said they were coming out when they came out.
Right, on the 12th of February.
And then how long was it before the first party got to them?
The 20th. The 26th. The first party left,
Was there any evidence this all happened in one night?
yes. The contents of their stomachs.
Okay, okay.
So the contents of their stomachs, according to the coroner's report, they had eaten 6 to 8 hours previous, and they all had basically the same food in their stomachs. So that's the evidence that it all occurred that night.
I'd forgotten that.
So, all right. Did I get cards from everybody or tokens or?
Is
I
it
mean,
one or two?
it's one. So, I mean, I'm just excited. I had a lot of people here. So this is pretty cool. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13.
14 at max.
Okay. So.
I feel like it would almost have to be a light of some sort. Because the only thing that you don't expect in the forest at night, in the middle of nowhere, and then you would try to see by climbing a tree if it's still there at your tent.
Well, but why would you be so afraid of it? Why would you go, wow, that's exciting, that's interesting, it's beautiful?
Well,
You know,
down, I think, how could,
and I have business cards if anybody wants.
That's what I was about the weather, because like if the wind was out, you might have seen something about that.
Well,
even then, 500 meters is, I
I'm
don't
not saying
know.
it's a good idea.